So the transfer speculation has started already. There's no point complaining about it. It's going to happen. It's upon us whether we want it or not. As somebody said yesterday, hold on, it's not even a transfer window yet. It doesn't actually need to be, particularly given three of the players that we're chasing, of course. One of them's Kyle Walker-Peters. We discussed him a few days ago. We've got, obviously, Angel Gomez, who's, well, there's next to no chance of him coming anyway. And what is weird is the second biggest chance of us getting a player at the moment is probably Jonathan David, which is really weird when you consider our starting point. But the thing they've all got in common is free transfers. So it is relevant to talk about them now, particularly as we are, well, if you believe everything, then we were in negotiations, or have been, for all three of them within the past few months. So the transfer opportunity is actually ongoing now. Now, the latest news is that West Ham are calling their interest in Jonathan David. This is a hard one to follow. So the lineage of this story is, we got offered David something like 18 months ago for 20,000. That'd be nice, £20 million, and we said no. And that was obviously with Lille knowing that he was running his contract down. He'd obviously told the club, look, I'm not signing a new deal, and they wanted to get some money rather than him leaving on a free, which is exactly what's happening now. And the general understanding was, though, that he is apparently a boyhood Barcelona fan, that sort of thing, and that's really where he wanted to go. But Barcelona have decided not to make an offer because, despite it being called a free transfer, it's anything but. Don't get me wrong, you'd get Jonathan David for cheaper than you'd get him if you had to pay a transfer fee. But I think with his signing bonuses, with the agents' bonuses, I think even that stuff is sort of close to £20 million, something like that. So it's really, really expensive. And then you factor in the wages. He's going to want big wages. It looks like a £50 million deal. And it's still a significant chunk of money. So you can understand why the big clubs like Barcelona, like Arsenal, would think, do you know what, we can't quite do that. And particularly, I don't know who Arsenal are going to get, but if you go along with some of the rumours that they're after Isak, who probably might stay at Newcastle, I don't know what's going to do. But if we just believe for a second the rumour that Arsenal want Isak, then £50 million a big chunk of whatever you were going to allocate to put towards that transfer. So anyway, the fact of the matter is, West Ham started off as the bottom of the list, the bottom of the pile, like the runts of the litter, basically. We were the scrawny little runts of, and now a lot of the clubs have fallen by the wayside, and it appears that David doesn't want to go and play in the Saudi Pro League just yet, which I've got every respect for that. I still didn't understand why he'd want to join West Ham, because we can't offer European football. But it now appears we're down to the last three, somehow we've become, it's like a bad episode of Love Island. I don't know how that works, but I'm assuming they get there. I don't even know how it works, whatever. But we're down to the last three, and somehow this old Minger's managed to cling on in there, and we might stand a chance. But right at the point where we look like we might be in with a shout. We're not turning our nose up. Getting cold feet, I think, is probably the correct term from it, because West Ham apparently want a more traditional number 9. Now, I understand this. I think this makes absolute sense, by the way, for us to try and go for somebody like that. As you know, if you're a regular watcher, I've got my reservations, not about David as a player, but how we could incorporate him into our system. And certainly the longer it goes on, the more I think the only thing that will keep Lucas Paqueta at West Ham next season is if that bloody ridiculous hearing carries on for even longer. I don't think it will, as I've been saying for some time now. I think he's going to go. Man City are very much still in the chase. Well, still in the chase. They've had an offer on the table for a little while, apparently, as we spoke about a couple of weeks ago. But I just think the supply line then is going to dry up even more so. So are we going to bring in players in the summer? Yeah, I hope so. Are we going to bring in players better than Lucas Paqueta? I don't know. I think he's purring. I think he's absolutely sensational at the moment. And so I'm not sure Jonathan David is the right guy. And as we've seen, when we struggle, we do have a tendency to sort of lump it up there. And he's probably not the guy to do that, as you can see any time we don't have a big guy up top and we do it. So I sort of don't mind. I think it makes sense, really, for the club to go and look for I don't know, more traditional number 9. Now, everything is a bit weird at the moment because there's some pretty big, like Jacob Steinberg's got really, really good contacts at West Ham. And he has said, he's pretty much said we're skint, we've got no money. And you sort of do hear that. You hear that from numerous different people that we've got no money. And it's hard, though, because I also do believe that we did try and make a bid for that Omorodioon, so that they can't both be true. We definitely made a bid for John Duran, even though it was a crap bid and it was £45 million. We did definitely make a bid for him in the January transfer window. So, I don't know. It's a little bit of a tough one anyway. But what I do think is we're not going to be able to go out and buy Jonathan David and a strike partner for him. We just can't rely on Niclas Füllkrug. We really can't. There's been fresh information come out today that the medical staff, he may well need to go. They're going to try and nurse him through the season, play him bits of, a few minutes. It's said today that they don't really like him to play more than 45 minutes, which would explain why he's not started. And you can understand that they don't really want him to break down again. And I think the idea is that he goes back out to that training camp or rehabilitation centre out in Dubai, and he goes out there and he does a little bit more work. So I think that's planned for, like, I don't know, June or something like that. Anyway, we can't rely on him. So I just think go out and buy the striker. Go out and buy the striker that you want. The bad news is that Liam Delap, Fabrizio Romano, the in-the-know Liam Delap, looks like he's going to either Chelsea or Manchester United. That's what Romano said in his sort of morning briefing podcast thingy. Well, that's that then. There's not a lot we can do about that. And he would have been, what's it been perfect for us? He'd been perfect for a lot of teams, wouldn't he? And that would have been, I think, quite a canny move from us to try and get that guy. But it's just, look, it's frustrating. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. I am worried about the upcoming transfer window. Yesterday, I explained why I was worried about Graham Potter. I'm also worried about how we do business. I think this is bad. And the longer it goes on, and the longer I see us sort of struggling to get deals over the line, the more Tim Stein probably had to go. But I don't like the fact we don't have a director of football. And I think one of the frustrating things about it is a lot of times at West Ham, we try and do something, but we don't commit to the process. And then when it doesn't work, we say, oh, that's terrible. That didn't work. Forget that. That's rubbish. We're not going to bother. Pellegrini, I'll tell you what, Pellegrini was the first example of that, actually, when Pellegrini came in. So David Moyes did his first stint, if you remember. Did a caretaker stint, and he kept us up. And at the end, we said thanks, but no thanks, because the general consensus was that we wanted a more, if you want to call it that, a progressive manager, more entertaining manager. Let's go with that. It's better than progressive. I don't really want him to make blue models and singing and dancing and stuff like that. We wanted the football that he would produce to be a bit easier on the eye. Now, it didn't work out, and when it didn't work out, West Ham fans sort of got the blame for it, because what happened was David Sullivan appointed Pellegrini, but then he pretty much said afterwards, well, you lot asked for that. Well, sort of. We asked for the process. We asked for that type of manager. We didn't ask for him. I remember us running a poll on Hammers Chat at the time, and he wasn't in the top 10, Pellegrini. And it was a case of we never fully committed to the process. We got the process, but we got the wrong manager. And because that didn't work, we said, oh, well, we've tried that attacking football thing. Forget that. Let's bring Moisey back. And that's basically what happened there. And I think we've done the same. Well, actually, funny enough, we've done the same after Lopetegui, you could argue as well. Lopetegui the same. So we get rid of Moyes because we want a more attacking brand of football, or to make a very simplistic argument of it. So we're getting Pellegrini, but no one asked for Pellegrini. Again, it was just David Sullivan pushed that deal through. That's what he wanted. And he was warned, and we did loads of videos on here. Nobody really wanted him. That's why we were asking for polls and doing things like that. He was in nobody's top 5 or anything like that. But it feels like now it's like, well, okay, so, we've tried that. So now we go back to Potter I think at least is a safety first manager. Would call him defensive rather than attacking, certainly. But I think we did that with Steiten as well. I think it was a case of well, we've appointed the director of football. Oh, that didn't work out. So we're not going to do a director of football again. Without ever really thinking, well, hold on, did we just appointed the wrong director of football? Or just because that one didn't work out? And it clearly, the longer time goes on, the more you realise actually started and did some good stuff. I think he's never going to erase the fact that he was falling out with people. That's just what was happening. But just because that's happening doesn't mean I think you throw the baby out with the bathwater and you say, right, oh, you know what, no more director of football. And that's this, and we have done it, and I think it's stupid. I really do. I think we're leaving ourselves in a right precarious situation for the summer. Now, I don't know if Tim Starton or let's just say a director of football would have been able to get that Liam Delap deal done early, or would. The thing is, the silly thing with the Omarodian one is they now want 80 million euros or whatever. How many times do we miss out on players because we don't get the first opportunity we get to buy him, we don't, and then we could have had him for less than £20 million in the summer, last summer, obviously. And now if we want him, well, we can't get him now because he's too good. We're so bad at this stuff. So, yeah, obviously I'm worried about quite a lot of West Ham at the moment. There's no doubt about that, as you've probably gathered. So, yeah, whoever this striker is, and I don't blame the club at all for thinking, well, hold on a second, let's go and get somebody that at least suits the manager's style of football. And there's no doubt about it in my mind. West Ham under Graham Potter look a lot better when Füllkrug's in the team. So I don't blame West Ham for trying to go and get someone like that. And I guess you can only say Evan Ferguson is nothing like that, otherwise he would be playing him. Yeah, but anyway, there you go. Jonathan David, we're getting cold. We finally got there. It's like we waited ages for a date with a girl. And then having wooed her, having serenaded her, you've sung her a song, you've written her a poem, you've sent her flowers. I'm not that romantic, but it's not me, obviously. My girlfriend's probably watching this thinking, he don't do none of that. He don't do none of that stuff. I think once you've done that and you've at the very point where you've wooed the girl and said, all right, I'll go out on a date with her. It's like we then turn around and went, not so sure.